Welcome to the Conscious Living Podcast, conversations to educate, empower, and enlighten our world. An uplifting and inspiring series of conversations and talks with your host, Jackie Woodside. We are educating minds, empowering lives, and enlightening souls to create a world where love prevails. In this engaging podcast, we deliver exciting, positive, transformative talks and teachings designed to elevate your life. Now, let's join our host, Jackie Woodside, for this week's session.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Conscious Living Podcast. My name is Jackie Woodside. I'm the host of this podcast, the founder of it, and the founder of the curriculum for conscious living. You could say that conscious living is my thing. I love it. And today is a special day for me because I always bring on seasoned experts who have so much to say about this notion of conscious living. But today I also get to bring on a dear friend. So Kate Mckay is the CEO and the founder of Sienna Strategy Partners, a consulting organization where she helps high performance leaders elevate their game. So Kate and I are going to have a conversation today about, as always, her take on what it means to live life consciously. But then she's such an expert in high performance. We're going to talk about that intersection of conscious living and how that actually elevates your performance in life. But Kate, before we dive in, why don't you just go ahead and say hello to people, help them get to know you a little bit more, and then we'll begin.
That's awesome. Well, Jackie, thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be part of the Conscious Living podcast. And I'm also deeply grateful for our connection and relationship. And I think part of my core belief in consciousness is ensuring that you're surrounded by other conscious people.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's such a fundamental piece.
Right. There we go. You're diving into teaching already, right?
100%, right? Because it's so true. And I think that that's the part that is so I would just love to dig into the context of this material because, if we look at the statistical average, really 90% of humans in this world, 90% are unconscious, not spending time in both their psychology and their spiritual practice. So that's a true statistic. I know it's hard for us and probably you all listening. How could it be that 90% of people are unconscious? Well, when we think about it, it parallels the statistic, which is 90% of our thoughts are unconscious, right? So how is it that we're making our unconscious, this whole potential that we have into and activate it into our present and be able to even more amazingly manifest and create an incredible future. And we need to do that. It's key to my work as a high performance coach. It's my passion and it's the reason why I'm here. So again, thank you for having me here.
Yeah, it's so great. So let's talk a little bit. I love how you open that part of conscious living is, and this is such a good litmus test, right? Part of conscious living is surrounding yourself with other people that are committed, creating a community of like-minded, conscious-minded people. So I think the litmus test that I was talking about, Kate, is if you're not sure, like, am I living life consciously? Am I, paying attention to my inner world? Am I looking at my beliefs and my values and my thoughts? One of the ways to answer that is look at the people around you. If the people around you are often playing the victim, blaming other people, not taking responsibility for their lives, are more of a complaint than an empowered person, that's really good indicator because like attracts like on the energetic plane. So I love that you and I both surround ourselves with people that are conscious, which makes that statistic a little hard, right? Like, what do you mean 90%? All of my friends are really, really awake.
Exactly. But I think that's the beautiful part of it. But then if we can, and we talked about this before, but I really have this thesis that I really fully believe in, particularly through the COVID and the pandemic, that it became a survival mode. It brought people back into this high alert of survival that we were like, afraid for our lives. Okay. And so that has a really serious negative effect on our brain and our neurochemistry for sure. So we're in survival mode. Then we move into protection mode. Then it's us against them. Then it's divisiveness, masked, non-masked, vax, not vax, Republican, Democrat, European, China, it's all becomes this whole divisive time where we're really focusing on how we are different
Yeah.
I would have to say that we've moved into phase 3. There's a lot of people that are still in by phase 1 and phase 2. You listeners know who those are, right? And maybe you are even one. There's nothing wrong. Just understanding that right now in this phase 3 is the time to bring the light in, the higher level of conscious awareness, and understanding that this is the time to dig into the productivity, the passion, the desire that you have to bring to the world.
Yeah.
And that requires some self-excavation.
Yeah, it certainly does. So let's dive into that. What does it mean to you? This is actually what gave rise to the podcast for me, because I'm around a lot of teachers and speakers, spiritual teachers, empowerment coaches, and everybody's talking about living consciously, right? I mean, we're kind of living in a time that, like, if you shop at Whole Foods and go to a yoga class, then you're living life consciously,
So not true.
Right, but so not true. So many people have a different understanding of what does it mean to live life consciously.
First of all, it's not what you do, it's who you are.
Thank
right?
you.
Because if you're judging people by who they vote for or where they're doing yoga or if they eat meat, that's not higher consciousness, people. Right. That's a low frequency. Yeah. It doesn't matter how you are wrapped in, how pretty of a package that you believe that you're wrapped in. It's not. It is who are the souls that you're walking amongst them, even though you may have different values, but you each claim and hold the highest level of respect for each other and a deep understanding and commitment to the highest growth of ourselves and the planet.
Yeah, that's so great. So conscious living is being committed to the highest growth of the self and the planet. I love that. And then I'm really going to push you here because that's so rich, Kate. Thank you for that. And then in your understanding and teaching, how do people accomplish that? How do we accomplish our highest growth for ourselves and the planet?
First, understanding it's going to be hard work.
Yeah, right.
People,
it's listen,
life is not supposed to be easy. Yeah. It's hard. We learn our greatest lessons by our attempts and failures at life. And anyone who doesn't know hard work and trauma, and it would be hard pressed to find people who haven't had those experiences. But if you've had those experiences and you're like, yeah, I'm cool, I'm woke, I get it. Yet you haven't really dug into the darker sides of your psychology of fear, of self-limitation, of self-worth issues, of the self-sabotaging behaviors you have that are covering up these core beliefs that just are not true. Yeah. And there are 3 components in that evolution. Is number 1 is understanding that you are worthy. Number 2 is understanding and knowing that you have a willingness to make a change and to look back and to reframe. And number 3 is that you have the capacity or the capability to make the changes. So we can get log jammed in any of those areas. Right. But the core piece of it, the central force is, are you willing? Yeah. Are you willing to go deep and bring the joy? And that's really my philosophy. And I laugh because I used to be a personal trainer and I'm a mom. And now I function really have a beautiful job as a high performance coach. And I will say to them at the beginning, listen, you're going to love me. You're going to think I'm the greatest thing since cake and ice cream. And say session 3, session 4, you're going to be like, yeah, she's all right. Session 5, you're going to like, I don't feel like going to her. She's not all that good anyway. Right. This is our natural process. And I put it right in the front and I laugh because they love me so much. They think I'm kidding. But then we come to that session where I can tell they don't like me that much.
Right. They don't want to show up.
And what I'll say to them as I laugh, I said, you know what? Here we are. And this is what you need to know. I know you're always going to love me, but you're not always going to like me. Guess what? I was a personal trainer and a mom. I'm used to not being liked because I am truthfully holding that highest vision that you shared with me. And if you decide you don't want me to hold that vision, just let me know. Do you really want this? And they're like, yeah, I want you to hold it. I'm like, okay, just want to clarify. Right. Yeah. So it is not an easy process. And it takes great courage. And courage is actually one of the high performance habits. Mm-hmm. And there are 3 things that we're afraid of. Fear or pain. There are 3 things in general, 3 areas. One of them is process pain. Man, this is going to just be too hard. Oh, sound familiar to anyone, right? Particularly like that with our nutritional changes. And the second one is it's going to be, I'm going to do all this work, all this money, all this resource, all this time, and it's not going to be worth it. The outcome pain. And this, I think, is most significant. Number 3 is, if I do this, if I make that change or that commitment, I'm going to lose. I'm going to lose someone or something. Fundamentally, I'm going to lose love. I'm not going to be accepted. I'm going to be judged. Guess what? You're going to be judged anyway.
Right. You're being judged right now.
They will judge you. They will judge you. And I have to say, just from a personal perspective, Jackie, that was absolutely the hardest piece of my transformation. I grew up in a family of 11 people. I'm one of 9 siblings. And the only way that you can survive in that family of origin is you have to become extraordinarily adaptable.
Yeah.
And for me, extraordinarily enigmatic. And also, not stay in one place too long, because you want to being a moving target is better than being a still target. You have less collateral damage. And so there's a positive effect in that I'm super high energy, right? Positive and all these things, and I'm adaptable, all these qualities.
Yeah.
The parts that weren't woke, that I lacked consciousness in, is understanding that it takes 2 feet on the floor, standing in for my truths and beliefs, and not being afraid to speak my truth, is where I learned my biggest lesson.
Yeah.
Right.
Not be afraid to speak your truth, and especially
on 2 feet.
Yeah. And
not when I'm running out the door. Right. Right. And so these are the lessons that I learned, and we all have our lessons through our family karma. I mean, obviously, the story about, obviously I lost a brother in 1987. And so my brother was wild. His name was Matthew. He was gorgeous. He was stunning, and he was always in a lot of trouble. And so he was just 18 months younger than me. And when I was 24 and he was 22, he was murdered. And when situations like that happen, it blows up your sense of meaning. And at that age, I was in trauma response. I was like, all right, I have to clean out. I became that caretaker person, the one that I know what to do in a situation like that. And it blew up my family of origin, and my mom dealt with it very differently than I had to deal with it. When in 2017, 30 years later, my son William decided, as his friends describe it, to ascend on his own accord. My son took his own life. And so knowing that this was a reactivation of a family trauma, talk about blowing myself into new conscious understanding, that I knew I was going to do it differently than my mother did.
Yeah.
And interestingly and bizarrely enough, my brother and my son were 22. My mother was 54. And how old was I?
Wow.
Yes, indeed. I was 54.
Okay,
right?
That gives me chills.
Yeah. And that's not made up. That was like 6 months later. I was calculating it, and I was like, whoa. So that just imprinted in me the desire and the need. And I knew I was willing, and I was going to figure out the capability of knowing how to do grief differently.
Yeah.
Because my job is to wake people up.
Yeah.
Is the positive end of that, which is transformation. We hear about post-traumatic stress. People live it and stay unconscious because of this. But I'm here to say that there is such a thing as post-traumatic transformation. And I rolled in it, and I discovered, and I was raw in it. And I was here to tell you that it's possible.
Yeah.
That I have transformed my life in order to
Kate, you could write a great blog post or even book on conscious grieving.
True that.
Those experiences that you had. So your strength and your ability to go through difficult times and then reinvent yourself, and, the way that you rolled with the loss of your son, did the grieving work, and then came back even stronger as an empowerment coach and consultant to high performance leaders. It was really, really astounding, and such a commitment of yours. And it's just, again, someone just asked me today why I do what I do. And my answer was, I don't do what I do. I am who I am.
Amen.
And what I do is who I am. And I think that's also so true of you, that you didn't, in some ways, you didn't have any choice. The next question on the interview, I was, and why did you choose this type of work? And I said, it chose me.
Mhm.
I don't feel like I had any choice in the matter. This is who I am. And
Yes.
I think you're very similar in that way, that it's not like you had a lot of other options. This is who you are.
Right. Well, it was either sink or swim. I had plenty of other options, honestly, but it became so with a great loss. My son was extraordinarily conscious. I mean, he could meditate 8, 10 hours. He knew suffering. He saw everything. He didn't miss. He was auric. He was a pretty incredible, gritty human being. So he saw all the suffering and was like, wow, all right, I got all my lessons in this lifetime. I'm out.
Yeah.
And it's bizarre for a mom to say that, but this is the holy piece of it. And this is the piece that I want to really share with you from a conscious place, is that my greatest calling up until Will's passing in the grieving process was to know I birthed an extraordinary energy. He was something else. And on the other end of that, I was able to release a child to God.
Yeah.
And for me, I look back at that and say, good work, Kate.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have control of that situation. Yeah. So my grief didn't look anything like my mother's. It was a surrendering too. And you know what it brought me home to? My feminine, powerful self. Amen.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the piece of me that I
Beautiful.
celebrate now, is the holiness of mothering, of being a female, a powerful female force to help facilitate transformation in men, and really powerful women are ready to do the work.
Beautiful. I want to pull out a couple nuggets of what you just said, because I think the most important piece of conscious living actually is your ability to accept whether you like it or not. Right. So your son's passing, your brother's passing, it's not what you wanted to happen. It was there was grief and trauma around, but it's like, that is what's so your ability to accept and then surrender. Like, there's nothing I can do about this. It wasn't about me. It was their life. It was their journey. It was their path. I have to just surrender that this is the way life is. Acceptance and surrender, I think. And people don't understand that. There's a sense of, we got to fight against the way things are. There's actions to be taken. Sure. You had a grieving process to go through. You had to kind of reinvent your identity and, assimilate this whole experience for yourself. But doing that in the sense of, I got to fight against it versus I'm accepting that this is the way life is. And
I'll say though, that's so true, but it sucked.
Right.
Okay? I'm not going to I don't sugarcoat anything. It sucked.
Right.
This is why I want to say, it's like this whole idea behind organic, it sucks. Life is hard. Let's stop acting like life is not hard.
Right.
People are suffering and it is hard, but I am committed to help people heal and bring back the joy. This comes from my heart. Like, I'm telling you, it was brutal. I'm not saying it was easy. Right. It was brutal. Right. But to surrender is the most difficult thing.
Yeah, right? It is the most difficult thing.
To detach and to let go of a child was the ultimate test, people. Right. And I was willing to learn the lesson, because if I didn't, that was disrespectful to my son.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so nothing, not anything, not the ostracization of my family of origin, not the psychotic break of my former husband after, not the mental health challenges that continue in my family, was going to stop me from living in the light of my son and living in the legacy of the light of God in all people.
Yeah. So beautiful.
It's absolutely non-negotiable, Jack.
Right. But that is what conscious living is. The ability to say, it sucked and I can accept and surrender.
Yes.
And most people get stuck with, it sucked. And they have their life become about that.
The ego loves you to suffer.
The ego loves you to suffer. Exactly right. The ego is not designed for you to thrive. It is designed for you to survive. Yes. And to let everybody know, right? So this is a good segue, Kate, because it's exactly what you've done. How does being awake and conscious living relate to being a high performer?
Well, it's everything. And I think that the reason why people are attracted and hire me and befriend me and partner with me is because I am at extreme level of presence. I'm 100% present wherever I am. I could be in a crowded bar and I'm talking to the little old lady, standing next to me. I don't see or hear anything else. All I care about is the relationship of what's in front of me.
Yeah.
It's my ability. The gift of ADHD is the gift of hyper focus.
Yeah.
And I also have this crazy ability to remember people's stories. And my greatest gift is being able to mirror people's brilliance through their stories and even through their suffering. So it's listening to what is not spoken.
Mm-hmm.
And I always see the opening and I never forget anything. But the beautiful thing about high performance coaching is because I work really with high performers is we're outcome-based people. Right. So life coaching, this coaching business used to start out very esoteric. It didn't have some structure and form. It was asking powerful questions and all right, see you next week. So it was somewhat like therapy. Obviously, you're a little bit more forward focused, but people who are high performers who want to be productive and have greater influence, you have to have a system that's based on a science-backed and research-based system. And I work in that. And, just to quickly go over that, high performance is really helping people. It's not high achievement. It's helping people sustain high levels of consistent fulfillment in your intimate relationships, in your work, in the way you manage your energy, in the influence and the impact you have on others, that you have more joy or whatever your core value is. It's just you're living at higher frequency. Because guess what happens? You're able to impact and influence more people and heal and help bring the light to more people if you own that unique power and brilliance that is you in the present, with the ability to use this beautiful power of imagination and all these magical tools and the science of the brain to create this magnificent future vision for yourself that you can lean into with actionable steps.
So great. So great. Your fund of knowledge is so huge. And I love what you're saying, that there is no path to high performance without conscious living.
No.
In some ways they're one and the same, even though some people who are living consciously, maybe they've chosen a monastic path and you wouldn't necessarily look at that as high performance, but as you're defining it, it's living to the highest level of all of your values, all of your relationships, all of your contributions, creating that impact. So whether you're out doing that in the world or you're doing that as an inner journey.
And I'll just bring up a story of this guy named Mark. And I went to Walmart and I needed a mattress because I was staying in a place and I was like, oh, I don't have a bed. So I'm in Walmart and this little black guy comes up to me and he's like, oh, I'm Mark. I'll help you with that. I'm like, all right, Mark, thanks so much. So he's talking to me and we're having this deep conversation. He's rolling my mattress out to my car and he's deep conversation. I'm like, this guy was present. Wow. Like we were like deep soul connection, this little old black guy. And he was like, where are you living? And I told him what street. And he goes, oh, over there. I'm like, dude, I like diversity. Don't you worry. He was worried about my safety. He cared about me as a human being. Okay. Mm-hmm. And when I left, I can't go to any other Walmart than that one because I'm loyal to Mark. Okay. This is bizarre, but I'm still talking about someone that works in Walmart because he made such an impact on me. So understand that your circle of influence includes all people. So do not take into consideration that God is in all people.
Right.
You have a this way we look at strata and the way we divide people.
Yes.
And your humanness and your ability to touch people, notice everyone.
Exactly right. So that's what I love about the difference between religion and kind of conscious living. Religion is kind of hierarchical, where there's this, the people who are in power in the religion, and there's the rules, and there's God up here. That's this hierarchical notion. And spirituality is all about oneness. The God's in all of us, that we all have this divine spark, and it's our responsibility as conscious people to bring our own divine spark and to see that in other people. And you do that better than most people I know, for sure.
Well, you have to own it, Jackie. I mean, that's the piece that it has to be grounded. And I think a lot of, and that's a problem with what happened with my son, right? Why he was a spiritual little bunny and he separated, he spiritually bypassed. So we still are in a body. You have to honor the badassness of your body. How are you taking care of this vessel? How are you grounding yourself? I weight train. Their studies are showing that women who don't weight train between the ages of 20 and 25 or don't do strength training, it affects your ability to even your brain as you age. We have to use strength train. Strength training is proving through the neuroscience. If you tune into Dr. Huberman, he's an incredible doctor out of Stanford, is showing that weight-bearing exercises actually improves your cognitive functions.
Wow.
Hello. Exercise is
Exercise,
so
right?
huge. Right.
It's
And then
so huge.
understanding your emotional world, understanding and knowing that being pissed off is often the fuel to some great passion, particularly if you have teenagers. Ask them what pisses you off. They're going to tell you, and you better believe it's going to lead. So don't be afraid of your gamut of emotion. Own it. I speak from it as a model to show people. I mean, that's why I come across like a little like blunt, right? But it's because I want to speak into your soul. I want to speak into your longing. I don't want to speak into your intellectual knowingness. I want to get all of you. All of you. And if you don't like me, I'm so good with that. But I know I stirred something in you.
Right. I love
and that's
that.
what matters.
I love that. Kate, people are going to want to talk to you, get to know you, follow you. Where can people find your work and be in touch with you?
Yeah, thank you so much. I have a new podcast out. I just changed the name. It's Master Your Life with Kate Mckay. I love the topic of mastery. It's amazing. And many people have different paths, and I'm fascinated by people's grit, determination, and the power of transformation, and the courageous folk that lean into their fear. And they have a lot to share with us, and that's fantastic. I'm also, you can go to my website, kate-mckay.com. Follow me, and I am Kate Mckay on Instagram.
Nice.
And again, I appreciate your support. And Jackie, once again, boy, we can really hit it out of the park with these conversations. I'm deeply grateful this time to play with you and someone that models and emulates just such that power, the powerfulness of conscious living. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It's great to do our work together. And I know you're off to go be a great mom, all the roles that you have in life. You're a great coach, you're a great athlete, and you are a great mom. So thank you so much. And you're a great friend. Till next time.